Hello everyone, namaste, welcome back to my channel. Hi, if you're new here, this is Amisha Singh Chauhan, and if you're looking for something fun, dark and mysterious, then you're the right place. So do not forget to subscribe to my channel and also hit that bell icon so that every time I'm here with a new case to talk about, you'll get to know about it. So, previously on this channel, we have talked about so many true crime cases which are unsolved, cases which are solved yet unsolved, cases which were solved by kids, by families, and in fact, some of the cases which were actually solved by the person who committed the crime themselves. Now, in future, hopefully, like one person can dream, we will talk about a case which was solved by an alien. Like I said, there are no limits to dreams, so dream on. While somebody should put that in a frame. Anyways, the reason why I'm talking about all of this is because the case we're going to talk about today is just so different. I feel like it's one of those cases which has never been talked about on this platform in our genre. Now, the thing that is so special about this case is that it not only has murder that is solved, but also reincarnation. Now, we are talking about the case of Titu Singh, aka Titu Singh. Now, before I begin with the case, a small introduction. This case was intensely researched by Dr. Ian Stevenson, who was a well-renowned American who did an intense research in reincarnation and biology. He invited Dr. Antonio Mills, who is a professor in First Nation Studies in University of Northern British Columbia. Now, the reason why Dr. Ian Stevenson invited Dr. Antonio Mills is because he wanted her to replicate his procedures and check if she would come to a similar conclusion as him. The research also includes Professor N.K. Chadha from University of Delhi. Now let's talk about Titu Singh. He comes from a very small village named Bar in the states of Uttar Pradesh in northern India. Now he is the youngest of 6 siblings, and the age gap between him and the oldest brother is said to be 13 years. Now the thing about Titu Singh is that there is a lot of confusion in regards to his birth date. Now, when Titu Singh's mother was pregnant with him, she actually got sick just a week before his birth. She was immediately admitted to a military hospital under the name of a family friend. Now, this was done so that she could receive free services. I know it's illegal, but we're not going to talk about that right now. So anyways, she was admitted under somebody else's name, and that is the reason why people believe that there is a lot of confusion regarding to Titu Singh's real birth date. Now, the bestest medical records which matches with Titu Singh, according to it, he was born on 11th of December 1982. But according to the parents, in 1987, he was born on 10th of December 1983. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this very specifically is because this matters a lot. Now, if you study this case with a parapsychology perspective or while you're researching on reincarnation, then these two dates matters a lot. Anyways, moving ahead, when Titu Singh was only 18 months, he started talking. Now, this was much sooner, much earlier as compared to his other siblings. Now, in whatever baby's language, he would go on telling his mother that go tell my grandfather. He would tell his mother that go tell my grandfather to take care of my kids and my wife. I'm eating food over here, but I'm still worried a lot about my family. Now, it is weird because he's like 18, 20, 24 months old. How come he has 2 kids and a wife? Now, that was something that the parents were not expecting at all. From the very beginning, they just tried to ignore it. But as he grew older, as his vocals developed, he would talk about his other family that lived 8 miles away from his village Bar in the city of Agra. Yes, the very same city, Agra, which has the world famous Taj Mahal. So he would talk about that, I am from Agra, I am not from this place, and I don't remember how I ended up over here. He would complain, and a lot of times he would also taunt his mother on the way she dressed up, like the clothes she would wear. He would go on saying that you dress very shabby and poor. My wife, my mother, they dress up in real expensive saris, and I have this huge house in Agra. This place is very dirty, it's very small. He would complain that there was no electricity, no television, refrigerator, aircon, and whenever they used to travel, they used to take public transports like buses, and he would complain about that as well. He would go on saying that it was not him to travel in buses. He has a lot of cars, So basically, he was not just accepting his present life. From the moment he started talking, he would go on saying that he is not Toran Singh or he is not Titu, but he's actually Suresh Verma. And he could not just accept the current status, the current identity of his in his present life, which bothered his parents a lot because he was not even accepting them as their own family. Now, this one time, the family was attending a wedding in Agra, and that is when Titu went ahead and told his entire family that he actually owns a radio shop named Suresh Radios in Sadar Bazaar, which shocked a lot of people because that was one of the first times that he actually came into the city, yet he knew where Sadar Bazaar was, and he would also name a lot of famous places in Agra. Anyways, back in Bard, he would throw a fit, he would get really mad anytime the father would go to Agra, to do business and stuff, and he would not take him with him. In fact, in a lot of occasions, he also used to pack his bags and try to run away, which again bothered the family a lot. During one of his fits, he was actually confiding in his oldest brother and one of his brother's friends. That is when he told them that in his previous life, he was a big smuggler, a known smuggler and a goon. He would go on smuggling stuffs in the black market, and at the same time, he had a lot of businesses. One of them was Suresh Radios, where he did business with transistors, television parts, and radios. He owned a lot of properties, he has a lot of money and gold and stuff. He also told them that he was very powerful, and on 2 different occasions he defended himself from people who tried to murder him, but he couldn't do it the 3rd time. Now he was telling his brother and the friend how did he die, how was he murdered. So back in his previous life when he was Suresh Verma, one day he was coming back from his store, he was in his car, and as usual every time he stopped at the main gate of his house and he would honk for the servants, for the house helps to come outside and open the main gate for him. He was honking and waiting for the house help to open the door, and that is when from his periphery he saw 2 people running across the street. One of them had gun or a pistol and shot at him directly, which led to his death. He even remembers that he was immediately rushed to a nearby hospital where he was pronounced dead, and eventually his family took him to a cemetery where he was burned according to the Hindu rituals, and his ashes were later on taken by his relatives and immersed in the pious river of Yamuna. He could remember all of this, and these things, the whatever information that he was giving about his alleged murder that took place in his previous life, shocked his brother and his friend because it was very detailed. Like he could remember so many things in detail, and this time he's like 3-4 years old boy. So anyways, next time when the brother and the friend were in Agra, they thought that, since we are here, why not just go to Sadar Bazaar and check if there is actually a store named Suresh Radios, and quite shockingly, there was. Now, the moment they entered, they saw a picture which they would later on find out that it was of Suresh Verma's. And then they met with the manager and they asked if they could see the owner of the store, Suresh Verma. The manager informed that Suresh Verma was murdered. He died a couple of years ago, so that is not a possibility. When the brother and the friend started asking them about the murder, he was like, you know what, why don't you just go directly speak with Suresh's widow? Uma Verma, she was still alive and she was the one who was taking care of the entire business and everything. So the brother was obviously joyed. He was like, okay, we can directly talk to Suresh Verma's wife. Now, when they spoke with Uma Verma, she was quite taken aback because she was definitely not expecting that a stranger is going to walk inside her office and start talking about her husband who was brutally murdered. But the details that he gave out, from everything, it quite shocked her and kind of convinced her and made her very interested and intrigued as to who this Toran Singh was, who this Titu Singh is, who knows so much about her husband. So she goes to her family and she tells them about all of this. And then in the April of 1987, they decided to go and visit Titu Singh in his house in the village of Bard, like it was unannounced. Now, along with Uma was Suresh's 3 other brothers as well as Suresh's parents. The moment Titu saw the car entering the premises, he got crazy, he was happy and very hysterical. He rushed to his mom and started complaining, see, I'm not even dressed and my family is here to see me. The father, he was outside, as in Titu's father, he was outside and he was getting water from the hand pump and he couldn't get it, like, who are these people in car, So the moment they stepped out of the car, he immediately rushed to Suresh's father and hugged him. Now, eventually, when the entire family was talking about, he very shyly goes to Uma Verma and he asks her to sit by his side. Now, a little background over here, even till date in the Indian society, it is quite inappropriate if a couple who is even married to sit very closely and to show a lot of physical affection to each other in front of elders, especially in front of your parents and your in-laws. So that was a reason why Titu was so shy and he very subtly went to Uma Verma. So anyways, when they were sitting together, he questioned her about the kids. Now he asked her, how is Sonu doing? How is Ronu doing? And she was shocked because this boy whom she has never met, they have no connection. How come he know the names of her kids? And not only that, he was very satisfied when she told him that they were going to a good school and they were doing good in studies and everything. The parents, when they met Titu Singh, they were quite convinced that Suresh Verma was reincarnated in the form of this human whose name is Titu Singh, and they were completely accepting this. A lot of things took place on that particular day during their first meeting. Like, for instance, previously I have told you guys that a lot of times he would complain whenever they used to travel using public transportation that he had a lot of cars and he wants to use them. The shocking thing was that the moment he stepped inside the car, which is said to be one of his first times getting inside a car, he immediately knew how to work with the audio system. Not only that, he also drove around the village. Now, I know he's like 4 or 5 years old, but it is said that it was under the supervision of Raja Babu, who was Suresh Verma's brother. So yeah, it was very shocking for everyone because A, he is so young, and B, he's never been inside a car and yet he knew about the accelerator, clutch, brakes and everything. So that was really shocking. Apart from that, he even observed and he pointed out and he asked everyone what's happened with my car. He had a white car, as in Suresh Verma had a white car, and this car in which the entire Suresh Verma's family came in was a new one. So Titu straightforward asked them, like, what happened to my car? This one is new. And again, it was something that only people who were family would know about. Eventually, when Professor Dr. Antonia Mills, when she met with Uma Verma, she asked her what was the thing that convinced her that Titu Singh was Suresh Verma in his previous life. So Uma Verma told Dr. Antonia Mills that when she met him the first time, during their private conversation, he actually narrated the details of one of their trips to Dolpur Fair, where he even bought a bag of sweets for her. Now, this detailed information regarding to their trip to this fair quite shocked her and convinced her, because see, for an outsider, it was a vague thing, like it's a vague thing, but for Uma Verma and her husband Suresh Verma, it was a precious moment and she cannot expect someone else to know about this. So that was the thing that convinced her about reincarnation of Suresh Verma as Titu Singh.
किसका है फोटो? नाम क्या है?
सुरेश।
तो कब खिंचवाया था ये? कब खिंचवाया था?
मेरा कार्ड था, मैंने तो पहले खिंचवाया।
अच्छा, काहे के लिए?
ये सोचा कि 80% अपना बच्चा है ये, और 20% जरा सकता मुझे उसके ऊपर। जब भी मेरी तबीयत 2-4 बार मेरे घर पर भी मेरे पास आया वो, और चिपट गया मुझसे, और मुझे छोड़कर नहीं जाता कहीं पर भी। बड़ी मुश्किल से मैं अपना उसको पीछे छुड़ाता हूँ।
Now, when the family was leaving, he threw a very aggressive and violent fit. He would throw stuffs like utensils because Suresh Verma's family were not taking him. Now, obviously, I mean, I get it that they were accepting the reincarnation thing, but at the same time, he had a new family. You know, there was a new father and a mother, and you cannot expect them to just give away their son. And the family was definitely not okay with all of this. Now, eventually, the family decided decided to test him and his knowledge regarding the entire reincarnation episode. So they decided to go to the city of Agra along with Titu Singh. Now there they tested him with so many things. Like for instance, they took him to a similar radio store which was not owned by Suresh Verma but actually one of his brothers. Now they thought that he would not be able to recognize or differentiate, but the moment he walked in, he was like, don't fool me. I know this is not mine, this is my brother's. Later on, when they were in the car, now this car was in full speed. Again, to test him, they passed by his store. But he got all hyped up and he told the driver to stop the car because they passed by his store, and he even gave out a shortcut, like he directed a shortcut. So all of these things were really shocking and left people speechless. Now, the moment he entered the store, he started pointing out the changes that were made in the store. He pointed towards the door which had caches, a new shelf which was added, and eventually when he went to the house, there was this crowd of kids, small little kids from neighborhood, some were relatives, babies, and all of these kids were asked to sit together. Now the test over here was for Titu Singh to identify Suresh Verma's kids, Sonu and Ronu. These two kids were in the crowd. And when he was asked to identify, he straight ahead went to Sonu and Ronu and started talking with them and having a conversation like a father would have with his kids. But only this time, the kids were much older than the father, or the alleged supposed father who was reincarnated. So in total, he made 15 verified statements before meeting with the family, and subsequently he made 31 statements, out of which one was apparently incorrect. He identified 10 people and 4 different places. Now let's talk about birthmark over here. Birthmarks in reincarnation cases play a major role. Now Titu Singh had various birthmarks on his head. 2 of them were very specific. One was on his right temple and the other one was right behind his right ear. Now the one on the right temple, it kind of looked like an entry bullet wound, and the one behind the right ear looked like an exit bullet wound. When this was corresponded with Suresh Verma's postmortem report, it matched. So basically, it had information about, the postmortem report had information regarding to exact place where the bullet entered Suresh Verma's head and the exact place where it came out of it. Now, these 2 exact places were the places where Titu Singh had birthmarks. Over that, he had one of this another specific birthmark on the crown of his head. Now, on this exact same place, even Suresh Verma had birthmark in his previous life. Now, when we talk about behavioral characteristic, just like Suresh Verma, he was very aggressive, quite violent at times and short-tempered, but it could be anyone, not just Titu Singh being reincarnated of Suresh Verma. But there was this one particular habit which was very striking, one particular behavioral characteristic. So whenever Titu Singh would go to the store, there was this one particular stool, and the moment he would enter, he would smack the stool real hard. And while leaving out, he would smack the stool again. Now, this was the same exact habit of Suresh Verma. Even Suresh Verma would do all the time. So yeah, these were one of the few things that really convinced everyone that it was definitely Suresh Verma who was reincarnated in the form of Titu Singh. Now, this is a type of a replacement case. Now, there are 2 types of replacement cases. One is prenatal, the other one is postnatal. In prenatal case, the replacement takes place somewhere between conception and birth. Whereas in postnatal cases, what happens is that the death occurs after the subject is born. Now in Hindi, in Sanskrit, it is known as prakaya pravesh. Now I won't go into much details over here, but I'll just roughly touch the topic. The reason why in the very beginning I mentioned the importance of the birth date of Titu Singh was because if he was born on 10th of December 1983, then it becomes a prenatal replacement case. But if he was born on 11th of December 1982, then it becomes a postnatal replacement case because according to documents, according to Uma Verma and Suresh Verma's postmortem report, Suresh Verma died around the age of 30s on 28th August 1983. Suresh Verma died somewhere around in his 80s on 28th of August 1983. Now, eventually, let's talk about the murder over here. Eventually, when his memories were more clearer, he went to Agra police and he identified his murderers. Now, one of his murderers were a well-known businessman, Sadiq Johadeen. Sadiq Johadeen was the man who had the gun and who shot Suresh Verma. Eventually, Agra police arrested the murderers and they even confessed of killing Suresh Verma. This case was taken to the court, and over where Titu Singh convinced the court of the entire reincarnation case and that he was Suresh Verma in his previous life, the court also convicted the murderers of their crime and they were sentenced for murdering Suresh Verma. So yes, Suresh Verma was murdered in 1983, and this boy Titu Singh was born, who is reincarnation of Suresh Verma. He identified his murders and he solved his own previous life's murder. Now the current update about Titu Singh is that he has chosen much peaceful life and legal as well. He actually got a master's degree in yoga and naturopathy, and since 2012 he's been working as an assistant professor in Banaras Hindu University in Varanasi, where he is teaching yoga therapy and naturopathy. Now, as much as he maintains some sort of relationship with Suresh Verma's family, he has quite moved on from all of that. In fact, in one of the interviews, Uma Verma said that though she accepts and she knows that Suresh Verma was born again as Titu Singh, she cannot have that very same kind of a relationship with him. Now here we come to the end of this case. I know some of you might not believe the entire reincarnation case, and if you ask me, like, see, I've done a lot of research on reincarnation. I've read so many books I've read so many research papers and academic papers on this topic. And I have a lot of questions, I have a lot of answers to them. I don't know if I'm well satisfied with it. But when we talk about this case in particular, it really makes you question, like, if this is not reincarnation, if someone is making up stories, if this is all, a con artist thing, then why? Like, what is the motive out of all of this? Who is benefiting from all of this? Because Titu Singh definitely did not benefit from proving that he was Suresh Verma in his previous life. I mean, he only helped in getting him justice, getting his family the justice, because he was murdered and nobody knew about it. Nobody had any idea that Sadiq Johadeen was the one who murdered Suresh Verma. So who gave him that information if he's lying, if this is all act? Like, all of these questions are there and I cannot answer them. Like, I don't have a justified answer to that. Maybe you guys do. So do comment down below. I would love to know that. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I'm like quite convinced that there was reincarnation. Now, the only reason why I'm saying this is because there's no other justified questions or answers to the other side, That's all. I would love to know your opinion on this. How did you find this video? I definitely have a lot of other reincarnation cases to talk about. There is this one particular case which was suggested by one of our subscribers, new subscribers, and I'm thinking of covering that case later in the month. The reason is because I'm trying to save it for a special occasion. It is going to be our 1-year anniversary. It sounds weird, but it's been a year on YouTube. So I started my channel with a reincarnation case, so I might as well celebrate it with it. So anyways, do comment down your views. What do you think about it? Your opinions, any case suggestions, do put them in the comment section. If you found this video informative, do hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and most importantly, take care of yourself. Spread positivity. Be happy, be hopeful. Bye bye.